Alright, let's check out this problem here. Test your understanding. A projectile travels from point A to G. So from here all the way to here. Find the components of the velocity vector at point A. Then determine the components of the velocity at every other point. Use the fact that each point occurs 1 second after the previous, and we're using g equals 10 meters per second, and that, of course, is in the down direction. I'm just going to make a quick note of my acceleration going down for the brain. Alright, so when we look at this first one, we're given the initial velocity, and it's launched at an angle. So we're resolving this into its components. So, first things first, let's get our x component, which remember is 50 times cosine 37. And that equals something 39.93. 39.93. And then in the y component, it's going to be 50 times sine of 37. And that's going to give us something like 30 meters per second squared. Not squared. Meters per second. The acceleration is going down. So through all of this, if you look at the length of each of these horizontal components, you'll see that the horizontal components are exactly the same length. And that must mean that there's no air resistance. So knowing that, we can fill in, if we wanted to, this 39.93. If you wanted, we can round it up to 40 for this problem. Let's do that. So roughly equals 40. So this is 40, this is 40, and all the way down the line. It's always going to be 40 because there's no acceleration to change the velocity in the x direction. For the y direction, we got that 30 meters per second. We do have an acceleration in the vertical direction, so it's going to decrease it as it goes up and speed it up as it goes down. So on the way up, if we started with 30, our next one you can see is a little bit smaller, so that's 20. And then we're decreasing by 10 again. And then at D, we don't have any vertical velocity. So if an object is at its maximum height, the only velocity it has is in its x direction. At point E, now we're going to have negative 10, and F, negative 20, negative 30. It's parabolic, which means it's symmetrical, which means if we were to chop it in half, like that, everything that's happening over here is the exact same mirror image of everything that's happening over here. So it's 10 meters per second here for the vertical velocity, it's negative 10 here. We started off with a 30 meters per second vertical velocity. We have a negative 30 meter per second vertical velocity over here. Sometimes that's a really useful shortcut if you're looking for the final velocity of a projectile launched at an angle from ground level. Then you can just look at the initial vertical velocity.